Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know within. What a great opportunity this morning for us to practice a certain amount of go with the flow, flexibility, even noticing our own frustrations. That being said, I invite you to just take a breath and allow the technical frustrations of today to just dissolve, let them fall away, and allow yourself to be fully here, present in this moment with this amazing group of people, this community that we are part of. Take a breath and I will offer you some words. I settled onto my cushion to meditate alone in this holy place. There was a profound silence around me. The sun was streaming through deep-set windows, creating patches of light on the uneven floor, the worn rug, the blue-painted pews, the flower-stenciled chairs. On the hand-embroidered cloth on the altar table, fresh flowers scented the air. I felt at peace. Instead of meditating, I began to sing, at first tentatively, and then as the quiet began to tremble and move my voice gained strength and my heart took over. And prayer in the form of song filled this small ancient church in a Unitarian village in the Transylvanian hills. My spirit flowed up to the rafters with my music, words from Rumi that I sing with my UU community, gospel songs, laments, hymns, and then love songs to this life. Finally, my own words and prayers. That is when the whole building began to vibrate and the sound waves traveled through my body, through the building, into the song as the church bells began to ring. On the day of this journal entry, I was almost halfway through my month-long trip through Transylvania. I had been a Unitarian Universalist for almost 20 years when I went to Transylvania, and I honestly did not know much about how this region of Romania was related to me as a Unitarian Universalist. Like many people who hear the word Transylvania, I thought of dark forests, gloomy castles, and vampires. I didn't even know it was a real place. But now, having traveled there and listened to the stories of the people and their ancestors, generously welcomed into more homes than I could count, I carry a sense of pride in the kinship we have with these hardy and dedicated people. Transylvania is located in the middle of Europe between Hungary and the Carpathian Mountains. It is a mostly rural area in the northeast corner of Romania. The word Transylvania means the land beyond the forest. For more than 1,000 years, Transylvania was part of Hungary. But through political and military decisions, new borders were drawn, making Transylvania part of Romania. For many years, Romania had a communist ruler, one of whose goals was to get rid of the Hungarian culture in Romania. And it became illegal to speak Hungarian in public, to teach the language in schools. The traditional Hungarian names for cities and towns were changed to Romanian names. Hungarian newspapers were shut down. And Hungarians were forbidden from giving their children Hungarian names. What is heartbreaking to me is that these people who had lived on these lands and loved these hills and valleys and rivers, had built villages and raised families for many generations, are considered strangers here. The country and language, the culture are not their own. Let me tell you a story. Once upon a time, in a land far away and long ago, there was a king. He was fair and kind. His name was King Sigismund Janos. We would pronounce it King John Sigismund. All the neighboring kingdoms at the time were very strict about religion. They had a very particular view of God that everyone had to accept and agree on. They believed in the Father, God, the Son, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit, known as the Trinity. But whenever people are told how and what to believe, there will always be those who question those beliefs and who will check in with their own heart and mind and find that they have to disagree. I'm just going to invite all of you to check and make sure you're muted, just so we're not distracting one another from these words. Thank you. Well, this is what happened in King Sigismund's kingdom. There was a wise and questioning man, the court preacher named Francis David. He believed in one God, not the Trinity. And Francis David's eloquent statements for the oneness of God, King Sigismund became also a believer, a Unitarian. King Sigismund issued a proclamation called the Edict of Torda, also known as the Edict of Religious Toleration. This law gave those in his kingdom the freedom to practice religion as they chose. This proclamation for religious freedom was radical for its time and place. I know this sounds like a fairy tale, but it is not. It is true. The place is Transylvania. And the time when Francis David and King Sigismund were first using the term Unitarian, that was almost 500 years ago. After King Sigismund died, Francis David was thrown into prison for his beliefs, where he died a martyr. Unitarianism became illegal, but that did not stop people from practicing and from believing. The Edict of Torda was issued February 18th, 1568, 453 years ago this month. Here is a paragraph from that proclamation. In every place the preachers shall preach and explain the gospel, each according to his understanding of it. And if the congregation like it, well. If not, no one shall compel them, for their souls would not be satisfied. But they shall be permitted to keep a preacher whose teachings they approve. Unitarianism was officially recognized for the first time in the history of the world in the Edict of Torda. And that proclamation is the beginning of our legacy to be a spiritual tradition that resists hatred and oppression, and the narrow view that there is only one way to be faithful, to be religious, to be free. There is so much that the Edict of Torda points to that our tradition continues to rely upon. The grounding commitment that faith is not endowed with purpose by governments or empires, but by the sacred, the holy. That a free pulpit and a free pew are necessities for free religious communities. Even the stirrings of our commitment to resist authoritarianism as a religious practice is signaled in the edict. In thinking about the topic today and the connection between Unitarian history, our ancestral cousins, and the passion with which they claimed and held on to their religious tradition, and the beloved community we strive to make manifest now. Well, the song that some of us heard and some of us read first this morning, to me, expresses this connection between beloved community and our religious ancestors. The song is titled We Are. It's hymn number 1051 in our teal hymnal. It was written by Esai Barnwell. Woyaya, the other hymn, was arranged by her as well, and today is her 75th birthday. Esai says that in 1976, she wandered by mistake into All Souls Unitarian Church in Washington, D.C. She was at the time Howard University's youngest faculty member, teaching speech pathology. She joined the Unitarian Church and the choir and eventually started another church choir called the Jubilee Singers. One Sunday, Bernice Johnson Reagan was at All Souls Church. Barnwell was singing her first solo ever with the Jubilee Singers while signing in a service focused on disabilities. Afterward, Reagan, who had founded the singing group Sweet Honey in the Rock, approached Esai. The group was looking for another singer and a deaf interpreter. Barnwell was chosen. For the next 34 years, Esai Barnwell became Sweet Honey's bedrock, holding down the sweet, low notes. But about the song, the lyrics say, "For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are." This is a celebration of each individual in their dignity, in their birthright of worth. And the words "sings to the universe who we are" uses the word we, not the word I. It does not say "sings to the universe who I am." It says "we." So in those lines, we are exalting each person's individuality while at the same time proclaiming relationship, each to the other, our we, our oneness. Her list of who we are is the description of beloved community. Sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, builders of nations, seekers of truth, keepers of faith, makers of peace, and the wisdom of ages. The wisdom of ages, that's where she brings in the ancestors. We are nothing without those who came before, who planted the dream and started the work, created a vision and offered the prayers, held fast even when it was unbearable and dangerous. She says, we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. And I am thinking this morning of those Unitarian ancestors descended from King Sigismund and his people. On Christmas in 1989, a revolution sparked by a Reformed Calvinist pastor overthrew the Romanian dictator. The dictator's final plan was to bulldoze 8,000 villages in Transylvania. These were Hungarian Unitarian villages he wanted to destroy. But the plan failed because he was killed. If he had succeeded, this long, strong Unitarian lineage would be gone. Only the stories remaining. In response to that close call, the Unitarian Universalist Association launched the Partner Church program. We began to form friendships and relationships, becoming allies with our Unitarian kin in Transylvania, and eventually in India and other parts of the world. When I was traveling through Transylvania, I stayed with ministers every few days. A different Unitarian minister hosted me with their family in their home. And I wrote down what this one minister told me because I needed to think about it later. He said, "You Americans hold your faith far from your core. Religious identity, cultural identity is our core value in Transylvania. It never came cheap to practice our religion. Each generation had to fight for this basic right throughout 4 centuries. Ours is an active faith, an active existence against odds, against persecutions of all kinds." He said, "We understand the Edict of Torda as a moment of birth and establishment, as a basic part of our spiritual DNA. And we seek to translate that spirit into lives and ministries of purpose today." I think that we can learn much from our Unitarian relations about loudly proclaiming our faith as something powerful, something life-giving, and precious and worth fighting for. Theodore Parker, 19th century Unitarian minister, wrote, "Be ours a religion which, like sunshine, goes everywhere. Its temple, all space. Its shrine, the good heart. Its creed, all truth. Its ritual, works of love. Its profession of faith, divine living." His words take me back to that sunny ancient church. I did not go to Transylvania expecting a religious experience, but in fact, there were moments steeped in a sense of timelessness, moments of incredible oneness, encountering the divine in the faces of the children with whom I had no common words, but there was a common language between our eyes and our hearts. There was an otherworldly sense of interconnection as I walked the green hills alongside the flowing streams, where these new friends and their ancestors had lived for centuries, so like the hills and waters that ground me here, that they were in those moments interchangeable. Encountering the divine in the expanding of all our worlds to include the other. I remember that little church in that small village, the sunlight streaming in the windows, and what it felt like when the church bells began to ring. The building did begin to vibrate, and the sound waves moved through the song that was me. In that particular moment, I was a particle of sound, moving fluidly through the sacred spaces of time and tradition, and syncing up with the holy vibration of beloved community. Reaching back to grasp the past and the vision planted there, and stretching forward toward the growing dream of beloved community that we hold in common, that we work to create. So may it be.